Hello there and welcome to Project Justice. This week, I am Mutaba Moran. Now, the move by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, who also doubles as the chairman of the National Judicial Council, NJC, to restore public confidence in the judiciary is indeed gaining momentum. 2 weeks ago, at the official opening ceremony of the 2017-2018 legal year, the Chief Justice of Nigeria announced a new policy direction, and that has to do with the establishment of special court to specifically handle corruption and financial crimes related cases. The Chief Justice directed that all heads of court compile a list of all such cases pending before them and submit them to a committee of the National Judicial Council. Well, building on that, last week a financial crime trials monitoring committee was also set up by the NJC, chaired by the Chief Justice of Nigeria. And that panel is headed by former President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Isa Ayo Salami, retired. The committee's duties, it is believed, is to follow up and monitor the progress of high-profile cases, the conduct of both prosecuting and defense lawyers in line with accepted rules of professional conduct, as well as the conduct of the trial judge. The hope is that these measures will help fast-track the trial of these cases so that the hearing and determination on financial crimes cases can be completed expeditiously. We shall be doing a broader analysis of this in our subsequent episodes. However, on this show, we shall be having two senior advocates of Nigeria to hear their thoughts on the evolution of the Nigerian judiciary and the progress made so far. That's after this news break.
First of all, we congratulate ourselves for marking another year of independence for our great country. And on the judicial aspect, or the third arm of the government, I must say that from 1960 till date, is the only arm of government that has remained stable, consistent, dogged, productive, both during the military and the civilian regime. So they deserve a kudo and a pat at the back. So far, there have been tremendous improvement. Don't forget, we have explosion of population. As we have growth in population, so we have increase in number of cases. We also have more courts, more judges. So there are bound to be some problems, which I'm sure you know. But that's notwithstanding. The few challenges in the judiciary, they are not enough to rubbish it in its entirety. We still have the best crops of men who are honest, who are intelligent, who can beat their chests high. They are incorruptible, and they are honest and fair, despite any wave. And the judgments coming out from there, I can say, with all great due respect, they can stand among other countries in the world, whether Commonwealth, African countries. In fact, they cite our decisions, particularly the Supreme Court. So I must say they've done very well. And there are rooms for improvement, I must say. The areas for improvement Nigerians are looking at in the judiciary, whether from the lower to the highest court of law, is to see that justice are dispensed expeditiously. I think that is the lowest common factor for every person. We don't need to sit and wait for years on ending for both criminal and civil matters to be decided one way or the other. So long as this matter continues to draw unending, it erodes the confidence of these litigants, erodes the confidence of the society, erodes the confidence of the judiciary itself, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's like a Pyrrhic victory. What do you need to get in a judgment in a civil case that lasts for 20 years, 15 years? Sometimes the people are dead. If the money is a monetary action or monetary claim, inflation had dealt a dead blow on it. At the end of the day, there's nothing to write home about. So the earlier we focus on this thing to ensure both all stakeholders are involved this time around. I'm talking about the lawyers, both the prosecuting, both the defense, both the plaintiff lawyer, the defense lawyer, and the courts to stand their firm ground to ensure that we all collaborate and ensure that we are able to go far in giving a judgment in due course, in due time. Yes, I'm not saying we should hurry, but there are minimal level of delay that should be expected and tolerated.
There are practice directions.
Yes.
How do you think these practice directions have improved the dispensation of justice?
Thank you very much. That is very, very important point you have raised. There have been practice direction in the Federal High Court relating to criminal matters. Some now coming into some civil matters. Practice direction in the Court of Appeal. Practice direction in the Supreme Court. I feel strongly that the problem we are having is the ability to apply and enforce this practice direction. Both to the courts. The courts are not firm on it. They allow litigants and lawyers to exploit and play around this practice direction. If the court says within 30 days, your record must be ready. Your brief must be filed. If it's not filed, this is what happens. So why are we tolerating those laziness and those who have gone to sleep? So once we enforce this practice direction, and for criminal matter, say day to day, unless it is inexplicable that you cannot. So why are we taking adjournment for 3 months in the criminal matters?
The court registers are being filled up.
That is why the stakeholders must come in. If the cost list is heavy, then we need more court and more judges. That will not reduce the long list on the list. So instead of having 30 criminal matters in a day where you can only do 2, we have more judges. You split this one. And that's why the judicial, the executive, and the legislature must come in. National Assembly will come in and say, well, we have seen what you are passing through. We want to give you more. We want to increase this level. And then we amend the Constitution to accommodate all this. That's why all stakeholders must be, if we are to make any headway. Otherwise, we'll still be where we are. Because you don't expect that we have 30 cases, and you said we'll be hearing data. These are human beings. They will collapse. They will die. The cases will still go on. They'll put another judge there. But when the stakeholders involved are concerned, they know it's not a one-way traffic. We need more judges. We need more courts. We need more funding. We need more other things that make things go well. Then we are coming to the promised land. You cannot hear matter. You have a judge who has 3 or 4 criminal matter in a day. And say, I'm hearing this matter, whether it's terrorism matter, rape matter, or kidnapping matter. Day to day, prosecution, are you ready? If you are not ready, decide the accused person. Once you are ready, you are on. And Nigerians will see that, look, yes. And don't forget, be prepared also to expand the prison. because some more may go there. More personnel will be required, more security required, because these are overflow from the whole judicial system. So you take it in a holistic manner.
Talking about personnel, recently the judiciary has taken it upon themselves to train and retrain their directors,
Yes.
clerks,
registrars,
and the CJN talked about discipline. Discipline is very germane, and this lack of discipline has effects on proceedings.
Yes.
What you have to say about that?
I must say that discipline is very, very important, because you can take a horse to the river, you can't force the horse to drink. But if that horse is not prepared to drink, you know what to do with the horse. So if these personnel that are trained, because the bulk of this laxity, they are in the administrative area. Cases are filed, they are not properly filed by the registrar. The processes are not in their respective file. When cases are coming up, the judges are looking for these processes. They are not available because of the ineptitude or laxity of these workers. I don't think we should take that lightly. So my issue, my take on this is that they should bring out the big stick of discipline. Any registrar, after all the training and all the investment, you are still where you are not productive, then they should be shown the way out. Because if they constitute a clog in the wheel of justice, then they are an impediment. So discipline must be enforced. And from all the administrative cadre, from the Supreme Court to the lower court, because these are the bulwarker in the judiciary. If they are not properly monitored, the issue of effective administration of justice will still be dragging. So I agree entirely with the CJN that discipline must start from there, and the big stick must be on standby.
For the purposes of this analysis, we divide the period between 1960 and now into three almost equal parts. The period before the military intervention, that is between 1960 and 1966, and then the period between 1966 and 1999, and then the period from 1999 till date. Immediately after independence, the judiciary, in terms of productivity and solid judgment, was on a very sound ground. The matters we had in those days were purely constitutional. The most remarkable being the treasonable felony trial of the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo and that of his action group, party members, and the state of emergency in the old western region, and the takeover of that region by the then federal government, and the way the judiciary played its part. In those days, it was almost unthinkable to imagine that the judiciary would be accused, or any member of the judiciary could be accused of, shall we say, corruption. And the judges of those days were largely British-trained lawyers, and maybe because they didn't have as much to do as latter-day judges. When you read the quality of judgments of those days, you will be impressed. You will think these are British judges that deliver these judgments, were sound judgments. Then came the military era. Under the military, the Nigerian judiciary was quite formidable, acting, as it were, as a bulwark against military dictatorship. You recall that up till the time we had the June 12 annulled election, judges and judgments from the courts, particularly at the Supreme Court level, could be regarded as the golden era of our judiciary because they stood rock solid against military dictatorship and military decrees, making seminal pronouncements. One case that comes clearly to mind was the case of Lakami and the Attorney General of Old Western Region during the military era, where the panel of inquiry that forfeited Lakami's assets was declared illegal by the Supreme Court, notwithstanding ouster clauses. Those were the days. Now, during the period under review, our judiciary stood on the side of the Nigerian public against rampaging military autocracy and dictatorship. However, shortly after the June 12 crisis, there would appear to be a shift in the way the judiciary saw things. Maybe as a stabilizing factor, some of the issues that we could have resolved legally became, shall we say, quite contentious with the judiciary caught between the sea and the devil, because the military regime began to oust the jurisdiction of the courts. Some judges were quite courageous in exercising jurisdiction notwithstanding the ouster of jurisdiction by decrees. And some of these cases went to the Supreme Court. There was a time, for instance, that INEC, cases dealing with INEC and party membership would terminate at tribunal. One in particular, INEC and Orubu, went all the way to the Supreme Court to look at some contentious issues. Now, the period between 1999 and today had been the most challenging for the judiciary. You've had a fairly imperious presidency under President Obasanjo that was willing to even remove his own vice president without the necessity of going through the usual constitutional route of impeachment. The court stood rock solid on the side of constitutionalism. You had cases of chief executives of states being impeached by rascally legislatures. You had one in Oyo State where the members sat, I think, under a tree to purport to impeach the governor, supported by the presidency. The court came to the side of the governor in that case. You had the one in Plateau where 5 men allegedly impeached a governor. You had the one in Bayelsa where the circumstances of the impeachment were rather bizarre. And then you had the one in Anambra where it was about 5 a.m. that some characters, some of the things we've witnessed under this dispensation would have made for hilarious home theater comedy, but for the consequences for our body politic. And this is where our judiciary was at its best. The judiciary stood rock solid in favor of constitutionalism, and they reversed all these illegal, awkward, and embarrassing so-called impeachments. And the Court of Appeal in particular, in the period under review, was very proactive and looked at the law objectively. The court had the benefit of a sound argument from well-learned lawyers, and the court was very objective in saying that, look, that it is an impeachment does not mean that the process could not be looked into by the courts. And that is how the judiciary had come into the aid of some of these governors. Otherwise, maybe under this dispensation, maybe all the governors in opposition would have been removed by now. So the judiciary had been there for the Nigerian people largely. Now, aside from the matters I referred to, you've seen that it is the judiciary that stabilizes the electoral process in this country. Pre-election matters, post-election matters, it has been the judiciary. No nation known to me could be said to have stressed the facilities of its judiciary the way we had done. And let us be very clear, the judiciary had performed creditably well. I am not saying you have a 100% situation. We do have one or two cases that when you look at the facts, one could be embarrassed. But then that is a matter of the individual judges affected. And so I'm always upset when some individuals will just roundly say the judiciary is corrupt. The judiciary is corrupt. There are corrupt individuals in the system, no doubt about that. But that is not to say that all the men and women sacrificing for this country are corrupt. Plus or minus, we have close to about 1,000 judges from Supreme Court to the High Court across the country. But I am not sure you have up to 50 individuals that you could say, hey, these guys ought not to be sitting on the bench. Now, when you discount that and you use them as a yardstick to rubbish the others, it is quite unfair, knowing that the judiciary cannot even come out and speak for themselves. Let us apart. The way the current government has perceived the judiciary and pursued it is worrisome to me as an individual, as a Nigerian, as a lawyer. I would have thought if a judge is corrupt, it means you have your facts against that judge. You send the police after him to invite him. If he fails to do that, then you can probably use other measures. The idea of a nighttime raid, for whatever reason, diminishes this nation and belittles our ability to handle our affairs in a mature democratic fashion. For whatever reason, that raid was ill-informed, that method was crude, that method is unconstitutional. That said, the regulatory body for the conduct of judges, namely the National Judicial Council, in my humble opinion, ought to begin to look at how you treat certain cases. If a judge is notorious for turning the law on its head, particularly in sensitive matters, it is either he doesn't know the law or is corrupt, or a combination of the two. Such individual should be removed. There should be no excuse. Like Caesar's wife, a judge should be above board. If a judge, it is elementary principle of law, constitutional class 101, that you cannot make another against a non-party, either for or against that non-party. So when a federal high court judge sits imperiously and makes such order, something is wrong. You ought to ask, how did you come about this in the light of the Constitution? If he doesn't know his law, he shouldn't sit as a judge. If he knows it and he chooses to pervert it, he shouldn't sit as a judge. That is my humble opinion.
Next week in Project Justice, we shall be focusing on the Financial Crimes Trial Monitoring Committee set up by the Chief Justice of Nigeria and headed by former President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Isa Ayosalami. We shall also be looking at the usefulness and the valuability of the special court set up or to be set up to handle these cases. Don't miss out on that. And that's Project Justice for this week. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Utaba Omaran. Thanks for staying with us.